Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As you get your audio and everything ready, this is a picture of some of our team and some of our now seniors on a college tour at the College of Charleston in South Carolina on the coast. And the title of our session today is First Generation Students Leaping from Doubt to Belief. Here is our team. I am Dr. Brandon Basket. I'm director of the College Center.
And hi, I'm Shannon Ryan. I'm the dual enrollment advisor. I work with the College Center, and I also work with all 5 of our high schools in our district with dual enrollment as well.
And I'm Kimmy Cartledge. I'm a career specialist. I currently serve our 8 middle schools as well as our early college. And I have taught a dual enrollment course for our sophomore cohorts for the past 3 years.
And in this picture as well, so we work for Lexington County School District 1 in South Carolina, which is near Columbia, South Carolina, our capital. I'm a huge basketball fan, and our men's and women's basketball teams are doing really well right now, so we're excited about that. But in this picture, we were at the NASIP conference in Minnesota in 2022 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. NASIP, if you're not familiar, I know some of you might have seen one of my colleagues, Diane Barker, is presenting, I think either it was yesterday or today. But NASIP is the National Alliance of Concurrent Enrollment Partnerships, and I also volunteer with them on the Engagement Commission. And so that's where we were in this picture. We were refining our practices and learning more about how to better implement dual enrollment in our district and in our early college. So today we really wanted to share, Kimmy and Shannon and I were talking, and y'all know we were actually just kind of going over some things before we got on today. Of what do we really want to share with people that will help them take away something that can help if you're thinking about starting an early college, you already have one, you want to refine it, or you're just thinking long-term, like how can we get better? We wanted to think about what are some things you can take away that can help you immediately and some things that can help you for your long-term as well. And so that's why we came up with the know your why, know your who, and know your how for our core strategies. And for the rest of this presentation, we will go through some of the things that we've done in the last 4 years to reach some of the goals that we set years ago and some of the goals that we set before this year started. And so we'll kind of talk through that. And then you'll definitely have an opportunity to ask questions. You can use the Q&A feature. You can use the chat feature, and then we'll do our best to answer the questions for you. But Shannon, I want to toss it to you. So as the people on this Zoom this morning think about the knowing your why, your who, and your how, what's one of the primary guiding questions you would want to talk about and share some ideas with them?
So for me, I think everything starts with knowing the who, which we knew, or the idea for our early college really started with looking at first generation students and also students who are in the academic middle. And so there are early colleges in South Carolina and other places that target the kind of top percent. And they're going for those students, but we wanted to give students an opportunity to sort of opt up. And so once we knew that, I think some of our other framework and how we recruited and what we were looking at for staff and those sorts of things, and actually kind of designing even our course sequence, all of those things kind of were easier to fall into place because we really had a clear vision of the student population and who we wanted to design that early college for. Now, we do have students who fall outside of that, and that's fine. And actually, I think in some ways that's healthy and good because you have a diverse student body, but we really wanted to make sure that we were looking for and talking to those students who are in the academic middle and first generation students. And so to me, that is where, like, really thinking about what population you're serving in your district and what need you're serving. What is your early college? What is the point of your early college? And we wanted to make generational impact.
Kimmy, how about you?
So I think understanding what your intended outcome is really important. So as Shannon mentioned, we are looking for first generation students, and she also mentioned about the generational impact. And I think for us, A lot of what we are trying to do is to set up our students whose family members have never been to college or may have had some college experience, and really teach them how to be college students. So that way, if they choose to go to the military, or if they choose to go straight to work, or if they do choose to pursue a 4-year degree after they get their associate's degree from our program, they have those skills. So that could be learning how to access your classes on your course learning management system. It could be understanding a syllabus. Our seniors, they go to one of our partner college's campus, and they take classes. What is it like to be in a college environment with other students that you don't know, you haven't been to school with for 3-4 years or since elementary school? What does that look like? And really for us, we have to be very clear about what our outcome is. So that way, when we are recruiting, when we're talking to parents and prospective students, we can truly explain how our program can benefit them and how it can change their lives and create that generational impact, as Shannon mentioned.
Yeah, and I think back to 2020. So for me, a little background about me, I was a high school assistant principal before I started this job. So the high school I worked at in our district served about 2,000 students. And now they're right around 24 to 2,500. And when I accepted this job in February 2020, I was really excited about it, starting this brand new early college program. The original intent back then wasn't to offer the Associate of Arts degree. It was originally to offer up to half of that degree, also mixing in some advanced placement courses, some AP courses. And so when I have that question, like, what is the purpose for having your early college? Really just knowing, like, what is your mission? What's your vision? Which we'll share with you in a little bit, because that'll drive you or guide you, I should say, along the way when you have students who have questions, families who have questions, and then when you have new staff. We're fortunate to have a lot of staff continuity as well. When you think about how do you identify staff to serve that target population, which has been really, really beneficial because we've developed some great relationships, student-teacher relationships, that have helped students be resilient through those challenging times. So we really use these questions, and I don't know if we've ever really, Shannon and Kimmy, we never really put all these guiding questions together until we were preparing for this. But this even excites me for helping us get better, because now we do have some guiding questions that we can look at. We're sharing this with y'all. This is hot off the presses, but this is something we're also going to continue to use to get even better. I'm always talking about with our team, how can we refine? What are our blind spots? What are some things we can do that we aren't doing and we didn't realize we weren't doing that was going to help with that intended outcome of making sure our students, we have a generational impact of them earning associate's degrees debt-free and changing their lives forever. And if they choose to have children, changing their children's lives and grandchildren's lives forever. So that's what it is. That's what it's about for me. So that's just a little bit of what we wanted to share with you on that page. And if you have questions, we'll take those questions as well. Well, let's talk about our mission and vision. So Kimmy or Shannon, what's the story that you can think about from our mission or vision that you can share with the participants this afternoon?
So, working with the first generation students, I think really it is that leap from doubting themselves and not sure if they're college material learning. So our students come here in the 9th grade, and they take all honors classes where it's possible. Like PE is not an honors class, AVID, which is our instructional framework, is an honors class, but the rest of their classes are honors level. And that's to prepare them to get ready to take dual enrollment classes, which start in their 10th grade year. And we've had a couple of students who have struggled in that opt-up their 9th and 10th grade year. And 2 of them, one even was thinking about leaving us early. And this last semester, those 2 students who had struggled in those early honors classes actually one earned 3 A's and a B in their college classes. And then the other student earned all A's because they had learned how to, through AVID, they learned how to study for their classes. They were very organized. They learned how to ask questions. And we have a cohort model here. And so they had found like support in one another, which was really nice to see. And they worked really, really hard. And so to see that growth from students who start and they're like, oh, this is really hard. Like, but it's a good kind of hard and people believe in me. And then here are some strategies that I can use to get better and sharpen those skills. And then to see when they're taking 4 college classes their junior year to be that successful is really incredible to see that growth. And that's something that I would always think about, especially when you had a student who was like actually thinking of leaving our program. And now she has turned a 180 and is very much invested in earning her associate's degree.
Oh, Shannon, you said something I forgot to mention. Sorry, Kimmy, I wanted to add because I forgot.
Sorry.
That's on me. If we go back real quick, the instructional framework, Shannon, you mentioned AVID. So
Mhm.
those of you who are familiar with AVID, or if you're not, I should say, it stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. It is a college and career readiness framework started in San Diego in the 80s and has spread across the country and even internationally. So we use that college and career readiness framework. There's an acronym they use. It's WICOR, W-I-C-O-R. W is for writing, I is for inquiry, C is for collaboration, O is for organization, and R is for reading. And so we use this framework that's that support structure that's built in. You'll be able to see that in our course sequence, how it works as support to help these kids go from, can I actually do this work? I never even took an honors course before, to I'm in high school, I'm 15, 16 years old, and I just got an A in a college class. I didn't know this was even possible. So thank you, Shane. I'm sorry I missed that. That's part of the instructional framework we use to help them succeed. Passing to you, Kim. Sorry.
So I can talk about one of our seniors. He joined our program during his sophomore year and had never taken any honors classes before. And he has a very interesting background story as well. And I remember teaching him in our freshman seminar course, one of the first classes they take, one of their first college classes that they take. And he was sitting there trying to understand an assignment. And I said, well, pull up your email and let's look back at the instructions. And he like sat there, he was like, I just need to read more. And from that moment of him realizing like, I just need to slow down and take a second to read what my teacher is telling me and read the instructions clearly. From that point forward, he excelled and he's making A's. He works he works a lot of different jobs and probably has more money than me in his savings account. But he's very business minded, very much like wanted to learn about stocks and investing. And, we have conversations with him and he's open to what we're trying to tell him. He soaks it in like a sponge. And he's one of our students that has told us that he has a full ride now to a school that costs a lot of money to attend. So it's just one of those stories of like taking a student who was never in an honors class and like now they're getting a full ride and an associate's degree on top of that. Like just seeing that, it gives me chills. Like I have chills. I got a long sleeve shirt, so I may not be able to see it, but it just gives me chills just to see him as a 10th grader and just saying, I need to read my email and understand to like now having a full ride to college. Like that's why we do what we do, because that generational impact, we changed his life in some way because he had this opportunity.
Yeah, and if you see our logo down at the bottom of the slide, so when we designed this logo, we tossed around a couple of ideas, and when we landed on this one, what I thought with our designer was that it's like a bridge. So when you get here, it's gonna take a lot of work walking up that bridge. Your calves get a little tight, you're sore, you're out of breath maybe, but then when you get to that part, there's a little gap in there, and you could fall in that gap, right? If you don't stay focused. But once you get over to the other side and you clear that gap, now you're starting to kind of decelerate and you kind of starting to cruise into that next level. And I think about the student that Kimmy just talked about, he's now in a place where he's cruising. In the fall, he was working too much. And then he got to a place where he had this epiphany, like, I can't work this much anymore when I'm trying to finish my associate's degree. I'm taking these classes. I can't work really late and work a bunch of hours. So I think when he came and told us that he got his full scholarship to this state university or college, he mentioned that he not only works 1 day a week. One, he saved up a lot of money. So he's able to whatever his financial goals were, he seems to have gotten there for now. And he made that decision. We didn't have to tell him that. There's another student we're working with that we were trying to help her understand you don't have to work as much if your family is okay with, like, if that's fine as far as how your family operates, you don't need to work as much. Your high school job is just that, it's your high school job, right? So it's temporary. And so those are things we do to help them be successful and to thrive beyond us. And that's when we really see that vision, come to fruition of that generational impact. Because now that one, the senior student, he can pass that on to friends, relatives, and if he decides to have his own kids one day, to his own kids. So that's what we're excited about there. So here's an overview of our staff. I have had the opportunity to directly hire or be involved in hiring most people on this screen. So when we started our program, we started at a traditional high school. So one of our high schools in the district, they had some space on their campus. So that's what our senior leaders and our superintendent said, hey, let's start the program here. And so when we started the program at that traditional high school, we shared staff. So we shared our AVID site coordinator, who's still with us right now in year 4. And we shared the English teacher and math teacher we shared back then. They decided to stay at that high school once we moved. So we spent our first 2 years of our program at the traditional high school. Once we're on the former middle school campus in our district that's been repurposed. Once the middle school got their new building, we moved onto this campus in 2022. This is our second year here. Yep. And then we were able to kind of get our footing and find our rhythm on this campus. And so we've had very few changes with staff, but we had to make adjustments to sharing staff completely as far as teaching staff, certified teaching staff, to now pretty much having everyone focus on the same mission, the same vision. And so this is the who. You got to know your people that you need to hire to accomplish the intended outcomes that you set at the beginning of starting your early college in your district.
And I would just add here, also, we've been lucky that several of our staff have been approved to teach dual enrollment classes through the college. And so that has been a helpful thing. So kind of as you hire, or if you have the chance to hire staff, kind of looking to see if you can hire people who might be approved. Kimmy taught for us, in science. One of our science teachers is able to teach biology. Our computer science teacher is able to teach a class, or actually several dual enrollment computer classes. So those are the things that have come. Our English teacher is now teaching the English 101 and hopefully the English 102. So those are things that we've built for. We didn't have those at the beginning when we first started, but those are things that we've moved towards. And that is very helpful to have your own staff or some of your own staff that can teach the dual enrollment classes, especially if you're not co-located on a campus.
We had a question in the chat, and I just responded that I would speak and basically say it verbally. The question was about academic requirements. So great question. We didn't get to that part yet, but I'll go ahead and talk about that. We're typically, other than first generation students, we're looking for those who are performing in the middle percentiles academically with English and math. And so they hadn't had to be in any advanced coursework in middle school, but as long as they're in those middle percentiles. And the cool thing about that, we work with our assessment and accountability department. And what they helped us do with our data, our instructional data and standardized testing data, they created a template for me. It's a recruitment template. And I'm able to go and scan that template very quickly. And I can filter it by those who I typically look between 45th to 55th percentiles, just to kind of see who's right in that middle. And what I'll do for recruitment, and that goes back to, I'll go back to this slide in just a second, right here, the recruitment and retention strategies for staff and students. So that's how I start. I start with the core group of who we're looking for. Of course, we don't know if they're first generation yet because they have to self-report. But what I do is I use Mail Merge in Google. I use an add-on in Google Sheets. And I'll email them and I'll use merge tags so I have their name to personalize the email. So I have their names in the subject line and I'll have their information in the body of the email. I send it to them and their parents and say, hey, you're an ideal candidate based on who we're looking for at our early college, and here's why. And we invite you to apply. And so that's what we've been doing the last couple of years. It's gone well. We're still looking at ways of how we can tweak it. This year, we started recruitment so much earlier than we had in the past few years. We had normally started recruitment in the spring. Now we do recruitment in the fall to have more time for staffing purposes, budgeting purposes, and especially staffing with knowing how many sections of what content area I need to have in our master schedule. So I do the master schedule. So those are some things. A great question about academic requirements, but that's what we're typically looking for. We're also looking to make sure they don't have too many discipline referrals, that they have regular attendance, that they complete all of their coursework. So we learned from the past that we accepted some students before and didn't really go back to check, maybe in March they were fine. We didn't go back to check how they finished the year. And we're like, oh yeah, we're looking for these kids to come to us next year. And had some who had some discipline referrals, some severe ones, some major ones that happened after we accepted them. Maybe a course that they didn't do as well in the course as they were doing at that time. So what we did is we made our acceptances conditional, and that's clearly stated in the email they get from me in the letter. And it tells them that we will fully guarantee their acceptance, at the end of the school year once we review discipline, attendance, and their academic progress. So great question on our academic requirements. Kimmy, anything additional on the faculty and staff side?
I think you did a good job hiring. So thank you.
Good job. Thumbs up.
Yeah. I guess let me talk through that a little bit too with hiring. Knowing your why helps you with the who, right? So what I'm looking for when I'm hiring people is I want to know, like, where do they identify that they can plug in to help our team? They don't have to assimilate. I'm not looking for people I'm not looking for yes men, yes women, yes people, right? I'm looking for people who can think on their own, who I love when people present ideas to me and I get to say, yes, let's revise this part of it, but yes, or no, here's why, but let's consider doing it this way. And I feel like our team, and I love for you and Kimmy, you and Shannon to talk about that too. I feel like our team feels very empowered. And because the team feels empowered, I believe that's part of why our kids are so successful academically, socially, they're growing. So, I mean, what would y'all say about that?
I think Brandon does a good job of empowering us to make decisions. There was a point where we had just come back from a field trip and he was serving pizza to the kids, and one of our staff had an emergency situation. And I was like, okay, you leave, I'll find somebody to cover the classes, we'll figure it out. And then on the back end, I was able to go to Brandon and say, hey, this is what happened, this is what we did, and it's taken care of. And he's like, okay, cool. Because he's very consistent in who he is as a leader. Mm-hmm. And it's very easy for me to say, okay, what would Brandon do in this situation? So I felt like I was empowered to make a decision because he's clear about who he is as a leader and what he would do. So it gives us that autonomy to make those decisions and just say, hey, here's the details, here's what we did. Let us know if there's anything else we need to follow up with.
And I mean, it is a new program. It's only 4 years old. So I think all of us have enjoyed the flexibility and being able to sort of shape this with our own ideas and have that exchange of ideas amongst each other. And with Brandon, and Brandon has definitely made a great space for that. And I think really to thrive, it can't be just one person. That's something. He's a very reflective and intentional leader. And he definitely takes suggestions, and like he said, he might be like, okay, I like this part, let's change that, but he's never not been receptive to other people's ideas. And I think if you're looking for a leader, I think that's an incredibly important piece of an early college, especially if you're building it pretty much from scratch, like we were. Yeah,
and with the hiring piece too, just hearing the thinking in interviews. So of course, if you are posting for a position, and sometimes some people do pre-work, they might send an assignment and say, hey, will you submit this? And so that was something we did with Shannon's position, which was brand new at the time, for a dual enrollment advisor. I wanted them to look at our particular page on our district website and kind of give us their feedback. That helped me see how the candidates thought. And I knew, okay, this is exactly the person we need to help us accomplish these particular goals. And so if, I don't know, who's in the room today, but if you're a leader who's looking to hire people for your early college, if you're new like I was in 2020, like I said, I got hired in February of 2020, super excited. And then next month, I'm like, what are we doing with the world? How do we finish this school year? We didn't know how to do that. And so navigating a lot of uncertainty, it was challenging, and we definitely had to be resilient. But when it comes to finding people and retaining people is really important to me. Finding high quality people and retaining high quality people. So treating them right, having a positive culture. So that who is so important, because you can have the best plan laid out for how you want your early college to run. But if you don't have high quality people to help you accomplish that, and they don't feel empowered to do, you're going to have some challenges. And so that's why I'm spending so much more time on this faculty and staff piece of just knowing where you're going and telling your people where you're going and how to get there, and everybody kind of pitching in. So that really excites me about our team, and I'm excited about where we're going. So we have some more folks on our campus. So remember, this is a shared campus. So you see there's a picture of the front of our building, former middle school. It's now called North Lake Community Learning Center. On our campus, we have adult education in one wing. We have our early college in the main building on the second floor. We have some office space that's downstairs in this main building that you see. In another wing, it's separated from outdoors. We have a breezeway that you can walk down. We have our alternative school for our district for middle school and high school students. We have the early childhood center on our campus. We have some other district space, office space in one of our far wings where it used to be. There's an auxiliary gym there, and there's a former music and orchestra room. And so in 2 years, we really had to learn how to navigate like what that's going to look like, all the logistics. So this is part of one question we had on one of those guiding questions was, if you're starting in early college, where's your facility going to be? Is it going to start how we started ours, where we went to a traditional high school's campus first and used part of their space until we grew and needed more space? Do you already have maybe in some cases you may be building a space to start your early college, and the building is already there. Like you have your own building, it's an exclusive building. Or when I first started, we visited one in Charleston, South Carolina, that is a part of Trident Technical College. So they use the college's facility. So those are some important things to think about. And all of these positions that you need to run, the program itself. We shared cafeteria manager, the executive secretary and bookkeeper is one person. Our federal compliance specialist who helps us navigate all, make sure we're compliant with our IEPs and our 504 plans. Our IT support, receptionist, school nurse, school resource officer, student data specialist, and attendance. All those things have to work together. And for us, and I mean, Kimmy and Shannon, y'all work with all these people in different ways. I mean, what's your experience been like with working with shared staff?
So I would say really well, actually. I think that I think there was some concern because our programs, like Brandon sort of said, are very different, right? Very diverse programs. You have the alternative school, you have us, you have Parenton, which is like 5-year-olds and under. But really, I think overall the shared staff has worked out really, really well. And it's part of that is just understanding like what we needed from them and kind of having that conversation. And then also understanding that they also have whole other parts and programs that they're supporting as well. And so just sort of remembering that. And we do take on things like kind of going back to the flexibility of our staff. We do take on things, I know Brandon certainly does, that other school leaders maybe wouldn't take on because he doesn't want to necessarily put that on the executive secretary. Or, we try to like do some of our IT stuff rather than go into the technician immediately because we have some people who are able to troubleshoot on the front end. So those are the sorts of things that we've learned how to do. But overall, I would say that that's been pretty successful.
And I think too, Brandon has been very good intentional about including them in, like, if we have t-shirts, like getting them t-shirts or like gifts or things, so that way they feel like they're part of our program as well. And then we also have a newsletter where Shannon has been interviewing some of our staff that you see here, to include them, so that way our parents and our families know who all supports our program. And then two, like, we take a lot of field trips, so we have to communicate with the cafeteria manager, like, okay, half of our kids aren't going to be here this Friday because we're going on this field trip. So there's a lot of communication to try to make everything run smoothly, because they have to order food, and if nobody's going to be here, they need to know that ahead of time.
And a good example of our collaboration as a team is, we might be meeting. So we have a leadership meeting weekly, typically is weekly, unless we have to reschedule it. But there may be a question in that meeting of, oh, Brandon, did you let the cafeteria know that this is going on? I'm like, oh, you know what? I didn't, thanks. But it's a space that I'm very intentional about creating, because I know I can't do it all by myself. So I'm the only administrator for the program. We do have 145 students, and we'll show you a demographic breakdown in just a few. And so we just have to figure out as a team, how can we be most efficient? And so I don't take any offense to somebody saying, did you remember to do this? Or, hey, don't forget. I'm super grateful because I have a lot of things that I'm trying to navigate mentally. And so as far as my mental capacity, some days there's a lot swirling around in my mind. And so I appreciate that help. But also that tells me that our team, my teammates, are attentive, right? I like having people on my team that are attentive, that do pay attention to detail, who ask good questions, who can communicate well with other people, because we all just pitch in to make it work. There are some days, Kimmy talked about me serving pizza. Our school counselor's taking the trash out himself and going to take it to the dumpster. We're all just doing whatever it takes to get it done, and nobody complains for the most part that I know about, right? People don't just complain, just say like, oh, this place is horrible. Like, we just get it done. And that's what I love about working with this team. So once again, if you're gonna help first generation students go from doubt to belief, you gotta have the people part, the human resource part has to be good to make that work. So here's some more background. I mentioned I would share our demographics with you. So here's more of the who. So Shannon talked earlier about that target population. Shannon, what could you add about, these are numbers, right? We know our kids are more than numbers, but what does this mean? What are your thoughts about who we work with?
So, one thing is we're a little bit more diverse than our district as a whole. So our population here is a little more diverse. We do pull from all 5 of the high schools, and we are targeting that academic middle and people in poverty, and also first generation. So this is, I feel like we're close to that. We're about at 50%. I think probably our target is to increase that every year a little bit, but I think that we are definitely getting towards the demographics. I think a little piece is we are a big district, and there's a lot of programming in this district. And so one thing that we have run into is just to get our name out there and what we do to all of the high schools, and kind of permeate that, because so we have 5 high schools, but we have 8 middle schools. And so I think at some middle schools, it's kind of more known. At other middle schools, I don't think they talk about the College Center as much. And so I think that's something our future goal would be, to try to make sure that we're getting to all the middle schools, that we're getting to those students that we're trying to recruit specifically, and kind of increase that percentages.
Yeah, and how, we were just talking about this the other day with our communications team. So our chief communications officer, I collaborate with her and then her director of communications, and like, hey, how can we better communicate who we are and what we do to our district community? And so we use a district communication platform called Parent Square, which I'm a huge fan of. It's very practical, has some great features that you can use to communicate well with your people inside your building and people outside of the building. So it's really cool. One thing they did for us in the fall was they helped us send out a message to our all 7th grade and 8th grade families. So anybody who has a 7th grader and 8th grader got this message. It was about 6,900, close to 7,000 people who received this message about who we are, what we do. And so I collaborated with that communications division and said, hey, are you okay if if I send an update from this original message to those same families? And so once again, there's that communication, that collaboration with the stakeholders you need to, or the leaders you need to collaborate with to accomplish a goal. And that's to find our target population. So we already sent the personalized emails to the families that said, hey, you're ideal candidates. But we know we get a lot of information in today's age and society, from email advertisements from companies and restaurants to, if you have multiple children, you're getting emails from maybe 3 schools. And so it's a lot to navigate. And then if, whatever you do for a career, for a profession, whatever, you might be getting work emails. So it's just a lot to navigate, getting a lot of information. And we're all fighting for attention, right? I shouldn't say fighting, that's too aggressive. We are all trying to gain and keep people's attention, right? To help them be more informed, to make great decisions for their child's future. And if we're working with a first-gen family, they may feel uncomfortable making a decision like this because they're like, well, I wasn't good at college, that's why I dropped out. Or I didn't think I could do it, I never went. Or maybe I didn't finish high school, so my kid now has this opportunity to not just get an associate, not just get a high school diploma. We're talking about a college degree for my 14-year-old. And so we're mindful of that, and we're always trying to think of ways to better communicate. I'm a former high school English teacher, so before I got into administration, I was an English teacher. So I'm always thinking about, how does my audience receive this information? Is it accessible? Does it make sense? Does it have too much jargon, academic jargon in it? If it does, how can I make sure people can understand what I'm trying to say, and so that they can interpret it the way they need to then ask us more questions, to feel like we're approachable enough to say, yeah, we can call them, we can email them. All those questions don't have to come through me. Like Kimmy's always good about throwing ideas out there, like, hey, how do we take this off your plate? And it's not that I don't want to do the work, right? It's just that you got to understand people's capacity. And if things fall through the cracks because I have too much going on, then we're not serving the target population. And so we created an email, a general email address. So we have a tcc@lexington1.net email address. So TCC is an abbreviation for the College Center. And those emails go to me and Kimmy. And then we can give other people access as well, just so we can find out, we don't miss things, those general inquiries that we don't want to live in my, kind of get lost in the flood of emails in my inbox. So that's just one idea of how we work together to find those we need to find and help them succeed. All right, so quick overview. Kimmy, Shannon, what would y'all point out on this page, this slide, to the group?
So, well, I guess just kind of a quick overview of the first part. So our students come in, I mentioned earlier, in 9th grade, and they take mostly honors classes, and then they begin in 10th grade, they begin their dual enrollment classes. And so they take 2 classes in the fall and 2 classes in the spring. And it is a mix here now of adjunct faculty actually coming from Midlands Technical College to teach our students. And then we do have some affiliated faculty, so who are both high school and dual enrollment teachers. So that is kind of what, so now each semester that they start, they'll have 1 affiliate and 1 adjunct, is how we've set up that course progression. And then as they go up through, it becomes more adjunct faculty. So that would be the Midlands Tech professionals coming here to teach our courses. And so that was something that we had to navigate too, because not all of the Midlands Tech instructors had ever taught dual enrollment or been in a high school setting. So we had to develop an orientation for them to just sort of explain, you can't just dismiss the class 20 minutes early, 15 minutes early, because the kids have no place to go. It's not like campus where they get in their cars and go home. Some of those things we've had to learn to navigate and talk about on the front end. So yeah, that's been a learning curve, but I think we've kind of conquered that. And then at the end, they earn their associate's degree actually before they walk for their high school diploma. So that's kind of an interesting, so they'll walk in their college graduation first, but at the end, they will have their associate's degree and their high school diploma when they leave us, associate in arts.
I can point out like our dress code and just like our expectations for students generally. So we try to make sure we explain why like the dress code is important or why wearing your ID is important and how that can relate to your success in being able to follow instructions in your dual enrollment classes. Or like when you go to a job, like you have to have your ID to get access to the building. Shannon mentioned that her husband has to have a card to even get into his computer. So just like making those real world connections as to why you can't dress a certain way or why you need to have your ID on. And then also for the safety piece, because we do share a campus with a lot of people. And sometimes we also have trainings and stuff as well. So there are people from outside of our district who are here, and we just need to be able to identify who people are. So we try to make those real world connections so that way they know the importance of, we're not just giving you a hard time, but here's why wearing your ID and dressing appropriately is important.
Yeah, I mean, I just making it plain, right? Try to make it plain. And I mentioned earlier when we were talking before this session started that, you know, we can get frustrated with kids sometimes and with students, especially when we care. Like when you really care about something, you can see that somebody is, you know, dropping the ball per se, or just not doing what they're supposed to do. And you know, they have that ability and that potential, you know, when it bothers you, it bothers me. And so I don't want to hold somebody accountable for something I haven't taught them how to do. I don't think that's fair, or we haven't as a team taught them how to do. There are some things, if you're doing this for the first time and maybe people didn't believe in you in the past and they just yelled at you or fussed at you because you're just not wearing ID and didn't really give you some of the why that really goes beyond high school. We got to do better. We can do better. Our team does better. And so when I see those types of things, when they're, you know, when I'm made aware of it, I think of what's the best way to respond to that. I try my best not to be reactive. Sometimes we have to be reactive. It just is part of doing the work. But as much as I can, I like to be proactive. But at the same time, there's sometimes real-time response, right? Just being timely as much as you can. And so just addressing things with the group and addressing individuals when you have to. But so one thing we focus on is like inspecting what we expect, right? But then also teaching them what it is we expect them to do. And we know that's going to set them up for success from the 9th to 10th grade year. And then even going from 10th to eventually getting to 12th grade and having a kid like Kimmy talked about earlier, who now has a full scholarship and is super excited about his prospects in life. And that's what gives us that joy of like, wow, like the work we're doing matters and we can see it. We don't even have to wait 4 years to see it, like another 4 years. We can see it right now, what it's done for this particular guy and his family. And so that's something I wanted to point out too about just this overview. And we shared this with our kids at the beginning of the year, but then just you kind of get a feel for your school and knowing when it's time to send some reminders or just get the group together and say, hey, here's why we want y'all to do this. So I actually just did that this morning. So we want to share that with you. Here's a brief overview of our course sequence. And Shannon has done a lot of work with our course sequence between us and our higher ed partner. And so I'd love for you to kind of share some of your insight with them, Shannon.
Yeah, and so I think that it kind of goes back to that question of what is your intended outcome. Most of the time for a lot of schools, it's an associate's degree. For us, it's an associate in arts because that was the degree that we felt like we could do with the population that we're focused on. And but we've also not been afraid to change things around or try things in a different sequence. So some of the things that have happened is, and this is a good good place of like having some conversations on the front end about prerequisites with whoever you're partnering with. So if you're on the high school side, making sure that you understand like if they have prerequisites, because we didn't realize when we first created our high school progression, we didn't realize that they needed 4 math classes to go into their college math. So we actually thought that their 4th math class could be their college class. And so we kind of found out that that wasn't a possibility at the end. We also originally had Spanish in our sequence, and then found out that that wasn't a possibility because if any of our students had ever had Spanish, they weren't able to take the college Spanish class. And that's something that was particular about our partner institution, but those are the things that you want to have kind of clarity on the front end, because we found out about those things sort of on the back end. And then the other thing though is that if something's not working or if something's changed, not being afraid to try something in a different place. So we had always paired our freshman seminar class with art history. And then Kimmy, who had been teaching it, was like, you know, they're at the end of the semester, the kids have to do a career presentation and they're having a really hard time. What if we moved speech down earlier and had them do speech in the freshman seminar in the first semester? And we did that, and that really ended up working. We've had other, our affiliate English teacher was like, I feel like that really helped the kids like speak up in class. So we think that that was a good switch out. Also kind of moving things around depending on if you have somebody who is able to teach a class. So we had somebody who was approved to teach a computer science course, and we moved that into our course sequence. So making sure that you build in some flexibility. And that has been a big thing. And then asking questions. I would ask lots of questions about what their thinking is. Another thing that happened with us is we thought that our kids would have to get through, it was a Math 110, which is a college algebra class. It actually changed on the college side that a Math 120, which is statistics, was able to work for the associate's degree. So we pivoted to the Math 120, which is a little bit easier for our student population, has some difficulties in math. So that was a better math class. So sometimes it works to our advantage, but just knowing that when something changes, being able to pivot and being okay with that pivot. And also just letting parents know our course sequence is not locked in stone, because it also can depend on instructor availability. We are somewhat dependent on who Midlands Technical College can send to us. And so like this past spring, we couldn't get an art history teacher, so we pivoted to Music 105 because we could do that in person. So those are the sorts of things that just know that those will come up, and that it's okay to change things around or move things or try it out, and just let your parents know that, you know, those sorts of things may change, but in the end, they'll earn their high school diploma and they'll earn their associated arts degree.
Yeah, and adding to that, so being nimble, right? Being flexible, but adding to that is empowering your people, right? Shannon doesn't have to ask me, hey, can I set up this meeting with these people to ask these questions? She just sets up the meeting and gives me information. Now she'll invite me, you know, say, hey, if you want to join, I'm meeting with so-and-so, if you want to join us and we can talk through this. But I trust her to talk through. We've probably pitched those ideas around in our leadership meeting, or just in passing, or just our standing meetings, or informal meetings, I should say. And then we're always collaborating. That's one thing I love about our team too, to talk through like what's the best way, what's the best method or approach for the high school courses and our college courses, or anything else that's going on in our program, our school. So I do see before we go to the next slide, I see a question. The question says, how do you identify who'd be a good candidate for your school to send the personalized letter? We can only see academic records for our current students. Do you ask middle school staff for the information? Oh, awesome question. Thank you so much for asking that question, Tracy. So my first year, right when the pandemic started, that was just tough for everybody anyway. But my thinking at that particular time was that I was going to depend on the middle schools to give me information. That didn't go as well because they were trying to survive as well. They're trying to run their own school. They're sure they want to give information to families and students and say, hey, like, I think you'd be a good fit for this new program. But it was unfair of me to put that responsibility on them to help me find students. They should be involved. They should be able to help. But as far as the responsibility, I learned that I needed to do that. So I worked with the assessment and accountability office and IT. So we use PowerSchool for our student information system. I asked for middle school access. So I have district office access as well. I'm able to go and look through the middle school information. So that's something that, I'm not sure what your role is at your school, but working with IT, if you can, in your district, and just seeing what access can you get to information. And you have an educational reason for looking at that information. You're trying to find those who meet that criteria for ideal candidates for maybe your early college. So that'd be my suggestion for you, is to find out if you can get that with IT or however that's set up in your district. To get access to the middle schools. But yeah, I did start with asking middle school staff, and you can still do that to get some insight, like Shannon and I and Kimmy. Well, me and Shannon called one of the middle school counselors. Kimmy, I don't know if you were here that particular day. We called one middle school. You might have been. And we asked, can you tell us more about this student? So of course we see what we see in the application and in a spreadsheet, but there were some missing pieces. And so for us to get a better idea of what that family might need for their child's educational, pursuits, we call the middle school, like, tell us more. And so that's what we've done. Okay, you're a counselor. Got you. Thank you. Yes.
And then
So, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I also work with the middle school counselors as well. So I say, like, as you're meeting with them, their eighth graders during their individual graduation plan meetings, they can talk to them about their opportunity of potentially going to the college center. And I had one of the counselors give a parent my number and say, hey, talk to Kimmy about the program. And I talked to her this morning and was able to give information and insight as well.
Yeah, and just following up on that next comment. So as a counselor, so our counselor here, he needs to be able to see the middle school information because he's helping us with recruitment and being able to talk to families. And so I got him access to district office and PowerSchool as well, so he can go and sort through any middle school information. So if a parent emails him and he doesn't know who the parent is, he can go search in middle school, find out more about the family, call the family, and kind of help advise them as well. So next question. Do you spread out AVID courses over the course of 4 years? Yes. Let me go back to the next slide. I know we're running out of time, but we originally started. So I'll say this: AVID is year long, all 4 years for us, and we split it up so I can have more flexibility for our master schedule. We are on traditional block schedule, so we have 4 classes in the fall and 4 classes in spring. So they change classes from fall to spring. So we do AVID 101 in the fall, AVID 102 in the spring. So that's basically 9th grade, and then so on and so forth through 12th grade. And so we do keep it over 4 years. Shannon, I think it was you or maybe somebody else, you and somebody else, pitched the idea of maybe we considering not doing one of the, maybe the spring AVID 402. Was that your idea, Shannon? I can't remember. Yeah.
That was my idea, or maybe changing it around to like twice a week or something like that, rather than you're not about 4-2.
Yeah, just being creative, right? And
Yeah.
we see what's happening, like, you know what, we need to make a change here. Let's see if we can tighten this up a little bit. And so that was something we had to do there as well. All right, so last thing, we're closing out. Let me go here. All right, right here, our kids have done well, right? So I send this information to our superintendent, our chief academic officer, our secondary director, to show them how well our kids have done. 82% of them earned all attempted credits in the fall. 88% earned C's or better. So we know that those courses are pretty much going to be transferable. Like, that's the kind of work that we've done. And it's because of systems and it's because of collaboration that we have some sustainable results. And so that's just real quickly. And here's our contact information. So if you want to reach out to us and further the conversation, ask some more questions, and just to connect and help each other, there's our information. So we really appreciate you all joining us today. Thanks for the great questions and the feedback. And we hope we gave something to you of value today that you can use to, if you're higher education, to work with your K-12 partner. If you're K-12, work with your higher ed partner, or to just be able to just refine your own practices in your school district. So I'm so thankful to have this opportunity this morning, and my teammates Shannon and Kimmy are awesome. They make me look better every day.
Thank you.
So
You're
so
welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Oh, Charvetta, hey, I didn't know you were in
Hi,
there.
Charvetta.
Hi,
Welcome. See, we didn't even Charvetta was in the room, and she's one of our partners. So see, we talk great about you, Charvetta, if you're still here. Yeah. All right. And I think we can be on the Zoom for a few more minutes. So if people have more questions in the comments or in the chat, we could take those before y'all sign off.